All right, you guys. So this is Britt from Homestead, Wisconsin. I just wanted to take some time this morning to give you a little bit of a tour of our current farm facility. Um, we have been working for the past year. Actually, this barn went up and was a skeleton this time last year. And then all of our pastures went in this season. If you've been following along on the blog, you've kind of seen all this come together, but I just wanted to give an overall tour of the farm for you today. You'll have to excuse a lot of our mess. Obviously, building projects are very messy. We've been trying to save some money and do it all ourselves, which has been great financially, but it's a slow process and not everything is together yet. So this is the barn, our livestock barn. We house both cattle and sheep in this barn and a few barn kitties, which George might join us in a little bit. We'll see. But straight in front of us here is our sheep pen. We've got a couple permanent lambing jugs here. The sheep area is roughly 13 feet by 18 feet, so it's fairly small. The cattle area here, I've been feeding out hay, so this third opening here will be fenced in so that we have a 27 by 18 foot cattle area, and a little bit of hay storage in here. So that's kind of a quick overview of the barn. There's still a lot of projects we have to do in here, a little bit more work to the roof. We're going to be finishing that eventually, but right now it serves its function. This area here, kind of when you drive in the driveway, that's going to be our new hay and equipment storage barn. So right now it's all poles. We had to get those in for permitting purposes, and then next spring this will become an enclosed barn for hay storage next year, so I don't have to lose hay to storage outside, which has been kind of a problem this year. Especially with our hay season, we weren't able to get off as much as we were hoping. So losing some to mold and stuff isn't ideal. But it's, again, part of the season we're in. So next year we'll have a nice dry storage area, and the tractor won't have to sit outside. So looking forward to getting that all finished. On the cattle yard, we finally fixed our draining problems. This was a yard space when we bought the property. We just kind of fenced it in last fall because we had to get calves over here. We already had 6 steers, and they needed to get moved over here. So this got thrown up last year. We still have some temporary lines and a big pile of gravel here. Our feed bunks will go along here. All of our hay, we're going to do covered hay bunks here. So right now it's just really beat up T-posts and woven wire. But that's kind of a general overview of the cattle area here. I thought I just saw that blink. That's my warning light. Tells me if my fence is hot or not. And all of our animals like to test the fences. So if they're not hot, the cattle will figure it out, and they will be on the other side of the fence within minutes. So I always like to keep a little bit of an eye on that, and I saw it blinking there. So this is our sheep yard. Still working on some drainage issues there. The 3 posts will be next year's barn expansion. I have an issue with bringing home way too many animals, and our 30 by 36 barn is no longer big enough. So next year's addition will be another 9 foot by 30 bay. So again, in between the sheep and the cattle yard, we just have these temporary T-posts for now, mostly because of time, partially because I still haven't decided exactly how the sheep facilities need a layout. When I designed this yard, the sheep weren't in the picture yet. Those were kind of a last minute addition to the farm, and so this was all going to be cattle yard. The barn was designed to accommodate sheep, but the yard piece of it wasn't really thought through, mostly because I had no background knowledge on sheep facilities, sheep breeding, and we kind of jumped into all of it at once. So our breeding ewes last year gave birth out here, but now that we've got feeder lambs, my ewes are getting really fat because the feeders need constant access to really good alfalfa, but my ewes should be a little bit more maintained than they are. So we'll need to figure out exactly how to lay this area out for future use. So the T-posts are kind of serving their purpose now, but eventually we'll do the wood in woven like we have on the rest of the farm. This is Cletus. He's not ours. He's my cousin's mule, but he lives here with us now. This area that he's kind of maintained to might be a possible area for leaving our feeder lambs, but the water access out here would mean farmer hauling it, and to be honest, I hate hauling water more than almost anything outside of stacking hay. So kind of right outside the cattle yard here is again part of my problem of not really being prepared and getting into sheep and breeding sheep kind of on a whim. So this is Ramsey and our single goat Billy that we brought in to be Ramsey's friend. So this is Ramsey and Billy's pen. It was planned to be a little bit bigger than it is. It's a pretty small little pen here, but the wild plum was just crazy and we kind of gave ourselves a week to put this pen in. So it got as big as it was and then it got fenced in. So future plan would be to kind of fence off this whole hill. We weren't planning on doing that this year anyway, but in the future we'll kind of conquer all the plum. I'd like to see all of it gone and this hill maintained a little bit better than it is now. But this again, since it is temporary, just got T-posts on the outside. This is the cattle lane, which leads us to our current grazing fields that we use this summer. We have 3 acres of alfalfa up here. We only had 4 grazing steers this year, so I was able to move them enough and thankful for the moisture that allowed the grass to grow all season. So it actually was enough for everyone that was here this summer. So this is kind of their access point. This area here that we're looking at is what I call the sheep pasture. It's all a sloped area. I've shown it on another video. We've been working on clearing that and getting that reseeded. We have obviously a lot more clearing ahead of us yet, but that's next summer's project. But this leads us to a little bit of a fork in the road. We'll have 2 pastures up here. It's pretty much one big pasture right now that I just split off with temporary wire. You can see the posts kind of headed up that way. That'll be a high tensile line that runs and blocks off the alfalfa from what currently is a brome pasture field. We'll kind of walk up there. This area here is obviously very sloped. Not ideal access for the cattle, but they manage. I wouldn't want them out here if it was icy, obviously, but they do okay on the slope for now. So this field is all brome, and cattle actually out here right now for a couple of reasons. One, they get super naughty when they're locked up. They're used to grazing all the time, so when I lock them in the dry lot, they get really naughty. The other reason, sorry, I'm out of breath, goodness. The other reason is so that I can overseed this pasture next season. A few areas here I seeded this spring with some mix, but this area I want them to really knock down so we can overseed it with some alfalfa and clover, as well as a few more grazing grasses, so this can be more productive. This year it was pretty much just a holding field. there's not a whole lot for them to eat here, and it wasn't all summer. So that's kind of the overall plan. It's only about 2 acres, but all the acreage here I'd like to be super productive. But so everyone's up here for now, just grazing this down, and then we'll seed it down in the spring, do a little frost seeding, and hopefully after next season of growth, this will be a little more productive for these guys. So that's kind of an overall tour of what we currently have for facilities. There's the house. So yeah, we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but it's kind of cool to see the progress that we've done. I should have done one of these before we started it all, because obviously all these piles of brush were not here. You couldn't really see the house at all from this pasture. It was so thick. But making some progress, and then we'll do another one of these next year, and hopefully looks a lot different next year. Always moving forward, and eventually we'll have it all kind of put together and we'll start over, I'm sure. So thanks for joining me this morning. It's a beautiful morning. It's gonna be 60 degrees here today, so good morning to get out and kind of take a walk. So thanks for joining me.